Hey there, I'm Josie, and I want to show you how I made this textured painting. I've been working with thick acrylic now for many years, and I use a lot of mediums, I use heavy-bodied acrylic, and I create these colorful and satisfying textured paintings with lots of color mixing and gradients and really juicy paint swipes. And they really dry the same way that they look going down because I use these heavy-bodied mediums that hold their shape really well. And the color is spectacular. The color really holds. And so I make them in a lot of different sizes. And today I'm going to show you how I made a little 5x5 painting. So first I'm going to show you what I used, the materials I used to make this little painting. I had a 5x5 wooden panel that's primed. I always use wooden panels rather than canvas because I like the surface. I like that it's hard. I have a palette knife that has a very pointy, skinny, narrow top because this style of palette knife painting needs a real pointy, pokey, knife shape to get the shapes, the petal shapes right. I use this cake turntable. It's a baking device that I got on Amazon just because it spins my canvas and makes it a lot easier to apply the paint. And also I will put a list in the caption of all the materials that I'm using. I like to use disposable palette paper, which is almost like wax paper, and the stuff that I buy is like a neutral gray, which just helps me see the color a little bit better. And then, of course, I use loads and loads of heavy-bodied acrylic paint. I mainly use Golden, but I do use other brands. And then, of course, the medium. I use a blend of different types of gel medium and modeling paste. If you want my full recipe, you can get it at my website. I'll put the link in the caption, but it's josielewis.com/acrylic, and I'll send you all the stuff that I use. I use a lot of Golden products, a lot of Liquitex products, and it's stuff I've developed over many, many years of building these thick textured acrylic paintings. And sometimes some of the mediums will crack and sometimes they'll kind of flatten out. So it does take a little bit of work to find the right medium. So I always start from the outside edge with these circular paintings. I think of them as flowers or blooms. Sometimes I call them blooms. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about the concept of an aperture, like an aperture in a camera where something is opening up. And I think these have that kind of like opening up feel. So I usually do the corners first. Sometimes I even draw a circle so I kind of can stay in a circular form and I don't get all wonky, but sometimes I like to get a little wonky. So I keep it loose. I keep it fast and loose. And I do shift the color sometimes pretty dramatically in between the petals because I am always trying to get, more drama in my color mixing and color distributions. I want them to feel kind of like ocular, like you're looking at a person's eye, or of course, like a dahlia or a chrysanthemum or some sort of beautiful flower with loads and loads of petals. And you probably have some questions maybe about what I'm actually doing with the palette knife. And I'm going to show you another image here, another video. Hold on a second. Okay, here it is. So this is just a little close-up so you can really see what I'm doing. I get the paint on the back of the palette knife, and then I just kind of press down gently and slide it off, as you can see. And you have to be very gentle. And I always like to, you can practice as much as you want, and everybody will have their own style of how they like to apply the paint. If you're using a palette knife, it'll come out different for every single person. I've done classes where I have 20 or 30 people that are all doing something similar. They're using the same supplies, the same palette knife, the same colors and everything, and everybody comes up with something different. Like everybody's personal expression comes out in this type of exercise. And it's super satisfying. It's super fun. And what you will make will be different than mine, or it'll be different than other people's. And that's part of the fun. That's where it gets fun. And I think you will find though that delivering these petals does take a little bit of practice. Like it's a sort of a sensitive thing that you have to work on over time, and you have to you can practice right on your palette sheet or whatever palette you're using, as long as it's a flat enough surface, to just figure out what kind of marks you want to make and how you want to build it up. And so I just keep mixing up new colors. I'm overlapping the petals quite a bit as I'm going. And just in case you're wondering, I use like a 10-to-1 medium when I'm a 10-to-1 mix when I'm using mediums and my paint. So that really preserves my paint. And I found that it will lighten up the color of the paint a little bit, but man, the golden paints really is staining, and the mediums are fabulous. So here you can see that I made a pretty radical shift, a color shift, because I really wanted the center to pop in this one. So I went from that very light blue, the gradient, you can see the purple to the sort of cerulean to the tealish blue to the very light blue, and then I wanted a completely different color. So I went with this goldenrod yellow because I wanted it to just like really pop out. And that's something really fun that you can do with these too, is you can make them monochromatic, which I have many times made these paintings monochromatic, or you can use different colors for every petal. Or you can do like I'm doing, where it's like subtle shifts and gradients for one section, and then in other sections it's, radical shifts where it's the complete other side of the color wheel altogether. And I should have done a little bit of a wider shot here. Next time I film one of these, I'll give you a look to my palette so you can see how I'm doing the mixing, because every color mix is super specific, and it usually I'm cutting out the time when I'm mixing, because the mixing actually takes a while to get the color exactly what I want, so it perfectly looks good with the color that I'm working with. When you start getting towards the center of your flower, it gets more particular, and many times I have dragged my knuckle or my palette knife across wet paint, which is a horrible disaster, because the paint is very, very wet at this point. It does take a little while to dry. People always ask me how long it takes to dry, and I think a thick painting like this takes, I would say, probably 3 or 4 days before I would ship it or anything like that. And so when you're working on it and it's wet like this, I do it all in one fell swoop, especially when you get to the center section. It's like so thick. The paint is so thick at this point, and getting it to lie right is kind of tricky. So you have to be very, very careful as you're laying the paint down. All right, there you have it. Hope you enjoyed this project, and let me know what else you'd like to see. This has been Josie Lewis. I'll see you next time.